Your relationship with the defendant was on the brink of ending. Prove that he is the father of your 7-month-old daughter, Aubrey. You are devastated. Plan to leave her if the DNA results prove you are not Aubrey's biological father.
I'm here today to save our family. He is the father of our 7-month-old daughter, Aubrey. I know he is the father of Aubrey. Our relationship has been very bumpy. Jacob has no trust in me at all. The day that I got the call from the courtroom, he was moving out. He had packed his stuff. He was ready to be out of the door.
Calling her has actually saved us as of right now, and I need the results of this paternity today, because if she's not, I'm gone. I am gone. Lacey told me she was pregnant, and we were very excited. I told family members. She had like a guilty conscience, and then that's when she told me she had messed up and she had slept with the other dude, that this could possibly not be my child. And
they thought a wedding would seal their love, but a single DNA test shattered their world. In Judge Lauren Lake's courtroom, the search for truth turns into a test of faith, family, and forgiveness. Because sometimes when people chase answers, they find regrets instead. In the quiet hum of Lauren Lake's paternity court, where emotions and evidence intertwine, a story unfolds that reminds us why truth changes everything. It's not just about science, not just about the law, it's about the fragile relationship between law and justice, and how human hearts react when truth demands a sacrifice. This is the world of modern families caught between love and legal proof, where a simple cotton swab can redefine a lifetime. This courtroom has seen countless faces, mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, all haunted by a single question: who am I to you? But today's story stands apart. It's a tale about a couple whose wedding was called off because of a paternity battle, and the DNA test that would not only decide a child's future, but expose the deepest wounds in their bond. Judge Lauren Lake sits in her chair with the calm authority of someone who has witnessed hundreds of families fall apart, and sometimes come back stronger. She understands the evidence, but she also sees the pain beneath it. Her courtroom is not just a place of verdicts. It's a stage where people confront themselves, where silence speaks louder than testimony, and where the law meets human emotion in its rawest form. The evidence stage in a divorce case is often about property, custody, or betrayal. But in this story, it becomes something deeper, the stage for truth itself. A young woman named Lacio stands before the bench, trembling but determined. She isn't just defending her relationship, she's fighting for her family. In her arms is a 7-month-old baby named Aubrey, whose innocence becomes the center of a storm that neither love nor law can easily calm. Across from her stands Jacob Abbott, the man she was supposed to marry. His heart is full of doubt, not hatred. His eyes hold a quiet exhaustion, the kind that comes when trust has been broken more than once. For Jacob, the DNA test represents closure, a final confirmation of whether he's truly the father of the child he's raised, or just another man trapped in someone else's deception. Judge Lauren Lake listens carefully, her presence commanding but compassionate. She's not only a legal authority, she's a counselor, a truth seeker, a voice for those who can't find their own. She knows that people regret taking DNA tests not because of the science, but because of what truth does to the human heart. Once the results are out, there's no going back because the truth changes everything. This isn't just courtroom drama, it's real life, where forgiveness collides with accountability. The couple's story has already reached millions through clips and podcasts, from the Game-Changing Attorney podcast to the Divorce Course podcast, each exploring the thin line between law and justice, and the emotional cost of uncovering truth. But here, in Judge Lake's courtroom, there are no scripts, no retakes, no perfect endings. Only evidence, emotion, and the enduring hope of reconciliation. As the hearing begins, the background echoes with unspoken words. Lacio confesses her mistake, a one-time lapse that turned into a lifetime of consequences. She admits to sleeping with another man during her relationship, not out of love, but out of anger. She wanted to prove independence, to prove she was more than what Jacob thought of her. But mistakes, as Judge Lake often says, have long shadows. Jacob listens in silence. His hands are steady, but his voice shakes when he speaks. He tells the court about the tracker on her phone, the nights spent questioning her whereabouts, the endless cycle of mistrust that eroded their love. It's not just about infidelity, it's about betrayal of belief, about the collapse of something sacred. And yet, amid the chaos, there's still love, fragile, bruised, but not gone. Jacob admits he was there for every doctor's visit, every sleepless night, every tiny heartbeat that made him believe in fatherhood. He fed the baby, changed her diapers, and whispered lullabies to a child he wasn't sure was his. In many ways, he already was the father in every way except DNA. That's where the concept of justice in jurisprudence becomes human again. Because law may decide biology, but it cannot measure love. Justice, in its truest form, must navigate both evidence and empathy. Judge Lauren Lake reminds her courtroom of that truth often, that the law's role isn't to destroy families but to uncover honesty, even when it hurts. She calls it celebrating recovery testimonies, the kind that emerge not from addiction but from heartbreak. People come to her court broken, but sometimes they leave with a deeper understanding of themselves. This is what sets her apart from other judges. She doesn't just deliver verdicts, she delivers perspective. The hearing continues with facts, timelines, and the sobering weight of adverse inference in the Evidence Act. If one partner hides the truth, the silence itself can speak volumes. In this case, the silence between Lacio and Jacob is deafening, a reminder that even love needs transparency. The court becomes a mirror, reflecting everything they've avoided facing. Judge Lauren Lake has seen cases where adoption stories end in joy, and others where DNA test cheating stories break families apart. But she knows that every test, every file, every piece of paper carries more than just data. It carries destiny. When the results finally come in, the courtroom breathes as one. The envelope, sealed with science, holds the future of a family. Lacio clutches her hands together, whispering a prayer. Jacob looks at the child he loves and braces himself. And then, with her calm, deliberate tone, Judge Lauren Lake reads the words that redefine everything. He is not the father. Silence, the kind that feels heavy enough to break the heart of anyone listening. And in that moment, the relationship between law and justice becomes painfully clear. Law delivers the truth, but justice must deal with the aftermath. The DNA test provides certainty, but it doesn't heal the wound it opens. The evidence is undeniable, but the emotions are eternal. Jacob lowers his head, the weight of the truth pressing down like gravity. He loves that little girl. He loves the woman who betrayed him. But love without trust can't stand. He walks away, his heart fractured between logic and longing. Lacio breaks down, tears staining the silence. Her regret is real, not performative. She didn't just lose her fiancé, she lost the chance to rewrite her past. For her, this wasn't about winning or losing a case. It was about proving that even in failure, love existed, even if it couldn't be proven by science. Judge Lauren Lake reminds them that closure doesn't mean the end. It means the beginning of accountability. She speaks not only to them but to every person who's ever let doubt destroy something pure. Truth, she says, isn't meant to punish. It's meant to free. Outside the courtroom, podcasts and legal analysts would later discuss this case. On the Divorce Course podcast, on Truth Changes Everything podcast, and even on the Game Changing Attorney podcast, not as gossip, but as a lesson in emotional jurisprudence. Legal experts dissected the adverse inference principle, social commentators explored the ethics of paternity testing, and ordinary listeners were left to ponder what they would do in the same situation. Because in every home, behind every closed door, there are stories like these moments when love meets truth, and one must surrender. In the digital age, where DNA test results trend online and cheating stories go viral overnight, Judge Lauren Lake remains a voice of empathy and fairness. She knows that behind every viral clip lies a family trying to heal. Behind every statistic lies a story of someone who once believed that love was enough. But love without truth can't survive, and truth without compassion can destroy. That's why her courtroom stands as more than a stage for legal battles. It's a sanctuary for the human spirit, a place where the concept of justice in jurisprudence becomes real, not theoretical. Here, the law learns to listen, and justice learns to feel. The courtroom slowly empties, but the echoes of that verdict linger, not in the sound of footsteps, but in the quiet ache of realization. Judge Lauren Lake closes one file and opens another, as though turning the page of human history itself. For her, every case is more than paperwork. It's a glimpse into the psychology of truth, the way it breaks us and rebuilds us at the same time. In the next hearing, the story stretches across 23 years of silence, guilt, and unanswered questions. This time, the truth doesn't just threaten a family, it's about rewriting an entire life. The new case begins with Mr. Oakley, a man burdened by remorse. He steps into the courtroom with the slow humility of someone who's carried a secret for too long. His eyes are tired, but his purpose is clear. He's here to correct a wrong, to make peace with a past that's haunted him for over 2 decades. The courtroom recognizes that look, the look of someone who's been living in the shadow of regret. He confesses that, for 23 years, he believed another man was his daughter's father. Now, armed with new evidence and an unshakable conscience, he's ready to tell the truth. Across the room stands Mr. Tucker, a man equally uncertain, equally cautious. He doesn't know whether to feel angry or relieved. Beside him sits his daughter Candace, skeptical but observant, her heart torn between loyalty to her father and disbelief in what she's hearing. At the center of it all stands Wakia, the daughter who spent her entire life wondering who she truly belongs to. For her, this isn't just a case, it's the truth changes everything podcast moment of her life, playing out in real time. A moment where the law becomes deeply personal. Judge Lauren Lake listens carefully as Miss Stokely, the mother, recounts her story. Her words come in waves, broken, emotional, hesitant. She speaks of youth, confusion, and choices that blurred into mistakes. She remembers the winter storm of 1993, the snowstorm that trapped her with Mr. Tucker for 3 days. She describes how, caught between 2 relationships, she made decisions that would shape a lifetime of uncertainty. The courtroom feels the weight of her confession. The silence that follows isn't judgmental, it's reflective. Because everyone in that room knows what it means to look back at a moment and wish you could undo it. Lauren Lake doesn't rush her. She never does. Her courtroom isn't about punishment, it's about revelation. She understands that truth requires courage, and courage often comes wrapped in pain. When Mr. Tucker takes the stand, his voice trembles not with fear, but with disbelief. He remembers the snowstorm, the blizzard that locked the city down and, unknowingly, connected his life to a child he never knew existed. He recalls how people in his neighborhood whispered for years that he might have a daughter. His own family members mentioned it, but without proof, it became just another rumor lost in the noise of everyday survival. For Judge Lauren Lake, this is where the relationship between law and justice becomes vivid again. Law looks at evidence, justice looks at effort. Law demands facts, justice demands heart. and today both must coexist. When Candace Tucker, his other daughter, speaks, her voice is sharp with confusion. "Why now?" she asks. "Why 23 years later?" Her words echo the skepticism of a generation raised on podcasts about truth, betrayal, and recovery. She isn't cold, she's wounded by the thought that there might be another sister out there, one she was never told about. The courtroom evidence stage is no longer about proving infidelity or betrayal. It's about reconciling decades of silence. The DNA test isn't a weapon here, it's a bridge. Judge Lauren Lake listens to both sides, her gaze steady. She has presided over hundreds of DNA test cheating stories, but she knows this one is different. It's not about lies told yesterday, it's about truths delayed for half a lifetime. She turns to Wakia, her voice soft yet certain. "Tell me what you feel," she asks. And Wakia begins to speak. Her voice is trembling but clear. She talks about growing up with questions, about hearing whispers of another man's name before she was even old enough to understand what possibility meant. She recalls the first time she saw Mr. Tucker, how he looked down at her and said, "Do you know who I am?" And how that moment stayed etched in her mind like an unfinished sentence. There's a quiet gasp from the gallery. It's the kind of silence that only truth can create, heavy but cleansing. When Lauren Lake speaks again, she doesn't quote the law, she quotes life. "Sometimes," she says, "justice is about giving people back the time they lost to lies." And then, as if guided by fate itself, she checks the evidence timeline. The snowstorm, the dates, the conception window, everything aligns with painful precision. Science confirms what emotion already knew. The DNA results are clear. Mr. Tucker is the father. The courtroom erupts in tears. Wakia breaks down, the years of wondering dissolving into relief. Mr. Tucker reaches out, his eyes filled with both shock and gratitude. "She's my daughter," he says, the words that she had waited her entire life to hear. Even Candace, who moments ago resisted the idea, can't hold back her tears. Because in that moment, bloodlines don't divide, they heal. The truth, though delayed, has finally brought closure. Lauren Lake stands with quiet dignity, her voice warm yet firm. "This," she says, "is why the law must always be balanced by humanity." She understands that DNA proves biology, but love proves belonging. In her courtroom, both matter. Outside the legal lens, this case resonates deeply with listeners across the world. On the Divorce Course podcast and Celebrate Recovery Testimonies, people discuss it not as gossip, but as a reflection of their own experiences of reconciliation, forgiveness, and finding family in unexpected places. It becomes an episode discussed even on the Game-Changing Attorney podcast, where experts analyze adverse inference in evidence law, pointing out how silence and delay can distort justice, yet also how confession and timing can restore it. It becomes a Truth Changes Everything podcast moment, a lesson in how the concept of justice in jurisprudence extends beyond books and enters the fragile chambers of the human heart. In Judge Lauren Lake's courtroom, every story is a mosaic of truth and tragedy. She doesn't just resolve paternity, she restores humanity. She knows that some people regret taking DNA tests, not because the results were wrong, but because they revealed too much. Truth demands courage, and not everyone is ready to carry it. But Lauren Lake believes that even painful truth is better than beautiful lies. Her court becomes a modern confessional, not of religion, but of redemption. The kind of place where adoption stories, full episodes, and real cheating stories aren't just entertainment, they're mirrors for the soul. This second case ends not with heartbreak, but with hope, a rare thing in a courtroom that usually witnesses endings. The father and daughter embrace, and the world seems to pause for a moment. For Wakia, this isn't about finding a parent, it's about finding herself. For Mr. Tucker, it's about reclaiming the years he lost. For Judge Lauren Lake, it's another reminder that her courtroom isn't merely about law, it's about life. The cameras fade, but the message remains. Truth changes everything. Because in the end, the law can define relationships on paper, but justice defines them in spirit. And the greatest verdicts aren't read aloud, they're felt in the silence after the truth is spoken. Some people leave this courtroom shattered, others renewed, but all leave changed. Because when you stand before truth, raw, undeniable, absolute, you can't stay the same. In a world obsessed with proof, Judge Lauren Lake reminds us that the real evidence isn't in the documents or DNA, it's in the choices we make after we know the truth. The evidence of character, the evidence of healing, the evidence of whether we walk away or walk toward forgiveness. And that's the beauty of her courtroom. It's not a stage for punishment, it's a sanctuary for redemption. A place where justice meets empathy and where humanity gets a second chance. For Mr. Oakley, Mr. Tucker, and Wakia, the DNA test didn't just end confusion, it rewrote destiny. And as the day ends in Lauren Lake's paternity court, the audience leaves with more than closure, they leave with perspective. Because every story, no matter how painful, has the power to teach. And in the space between law and justice, Lauren Lake continues her mission, one truth at a time. The courtroom may have emptied, but its walls remember everything, the tears, the trembling voices, the moments when lives shifted forever. Judge Lauren Lake often says, "The truth doesn't just reveal, it rebuilds." Yet as the lights dim and the echoes fade, her words linger like a final note in a song that refuses to end. The two cases, one of heartbreak, one of healing, become a study in contrast, bound together by a single thread. Truth changes everything. Each story reminds us that justice is not an abstract idea carved in stone. It's a living force that breathes through people, their pain, and their courage to confront it. For Lassio and Jacob Abbott, the DNA test became an ending, the quiet closure of something that once felt unbreakable. But for Mr. Tucker and Wakia, that same test became a new beginning, a doorway to love rediscovered after decades of silence. In the span of two cases, Lauren Lake reveals the paradox at the heart of justice, that the same truth that destroys one life can heal another. In her courtroom, every file, every testimony, every confession represents something greater than itself. The law may categorize them as paternity disputes, but to her, they're reflections of humanity in its purest, most vulnerable form. It's not about who wins or loses, it's about who finds the strength to face the truth. Judge Lauren Lake often references what she calls the emotional evidence stage, the part of every case where legal facts collide with human feelings. It's not listed in any rulebook, but it's as real as any statute. It's the point where DNA and destiny meet, where science proves the facts but empathy heals the wounds. She believes that the relationship between law and justice is like the relationship between parent and child, deeply intertwined but never identical. Law enforces, justice understands. Law speaks, justice listens. Law defines what happened, justice defines what it meant. In the episode's closing moments, Lauren Lake looks back at both families and reflects, not aloud, but within the sacred stillness of her courtroom. She has seen people regret taking DNA tests because the truth shattered the lives they built on lies. She has seen others grateful, even through tears, that science finally brought peace to questions that haunted generations. To her, these aren't opposites, they are both forms of truth's power. In her view, truth is neither cruel nor kind. It is neutral, but what we do with it determines whether it becomes healing or harm. That's what makes her court more than a show. It's a philosophy. The concept of justice in jurisprudence isn't just about punishment or proof, it's about purpose. Every verdict is an invitation to grow, to repair, to begin again. She once described her courtroom as a living podcast of redemption, an ever-evolving conversation between the law and the heart. You can hear echoes of that sentiment in countless discussions across the world. In the Game-Changing Attorney podcast, where legal professionals analyze her reasoning. In the Divorce Course podcast, where people share how her rulings changed their perspective on truth. And in Celebrate Recovery testimonies, where her empathy becomes an example of how grace can coexist with accountability. But perhaps the most powerful lessons are not about the law at all. They are about love, love that endures even after betrayal, love that forgives even when broken, love that seeks truth even when it hurts. In Lacio's case, love tried to survive through guilt and confusion. She wanted to keep her family together, even though lies stood between her and redemption. She believed that if she could prove Jacob was the father, everything could go back to the way it was. But Judge Lauren Lake knew what many forget, that truth doesn't take us backward. It always pushes us forward. When the DNA results revealed that Jacob was not the father, the silence that followed was more than grief. It was realization. It was the acknowledgement that healing can't happen in denial. Lauren Lake didn't shame her. She simply let the truth stand, allowing it to do what truth always does: cleanse, however painfully. Meanwhile, in Wackia's story, truth was the missing heartbeat. It filled a lifetime of emptiness in a single moment. When Mr. Tucker embraced his daughter for the first time, the courtroom felt the weight of 20